Today, I'd like to talk to you about a very important subject, a subject that many in recovery struggle to implement, but happens to be one of the most important strategies to implement in order to experience full recovery. And that subject is meditation. Unfortunately, a lot of clients who begin to practice this strategy really struggle with understanding how to do it properly, how to benefit the most from it. And one of the most common misconceptions about meditation is that while you're meditating, somehow you're supposed to be empty of thought. In other words, if your mind is racing or you're distracted, that this is somehow a failure and that you're not properly meditating. So let me reassure you that meditation is not the absence of thought at all. Meditation is actually the process of learning how to manage those thoughts as you experience them. So it isn't the absence of thought in any way, shape, or form. I want to share with you a few tips that I myself have found helpful and other clients I've worked with have found helpful. And these tips were from an author by the name of Dr. Stephen M. Melamus, PhD, and from a book called I Want to Change My Life. The chapter in this book that drew specific interest from me was the one on meditation. And it is from that reading I'd like to share with you some of the most important parts of that chapter. So again, the author states that meditation is not the absence of thought, but the management of thought. The author also states that meditation is made up of long periods of distraction and followed by brief periods of calm. Now, that might not sound great to you, but that's unfortunately how it's going to be for a while. When you meditate, you have two primary goals. The most important goal in meditation is to relax your body. It's fundamental. So your approach to meditation needs to be one of, am I in the process of relaxing my body? So here's what we know. We know that the mind follows the body and vice versa. So if we can relax the body, eventually we're going to relax the mind. The second goal of meditation is to learn how to manage your tension, which is often revealed in the form of mental distractions. And I'd like to walk you through those 4 points of distraction as highlighted by Dr. Stephen Melamus. The first, and these are not in order of priority or emphasis, but just in order of a series of distractions. The number one distraction is often fear. Quite often when you're in the middle of your meditation, you will find yourself distracted by the things that scare you. It could be something as simple as a sensation, a feeling, an irrational thought, your heart palpitations might be occurring. It could be any kind of physical symptom or sensation whatsoever. But then all of a sudden, as you're laying there trying to relax your body, you'll find yourself feeling the most symptomatic or more symptomatic. And this is actually one of the reasons why people don't meditate, is that when they're trying to meditate and calm their body down and they're not distracted by busyness, they have a tendency to feel even more symptomatic, at least temporarily, while learning how to properly meditate. So again, I just want to assure you that it's perfectly normal and that will pass with time. So yes, fear is number one. Number two is often resentment. A lot of times you can be laying there meditating and start thinking about that argument you had with your spouse, the argument you had with your child. Maybe it was an argument or some kind of conflict you had at work, or something that might have even happened, a year or two or several years ago. Again, that can pop up while you're thinking as a mental distraction or a point of tension. Thirdly, we often find ourselves being distracted by things we don't control. So in other words, we're trying to control things we don't control. So that something can be as simple as a car alarm going off, your cell phone going off, or a text message, a dog barking, a door slamming. It can be just about anything. In fact, when I was in recovery, I lived in a mobile home. I happened to be going to school at the time, to postgraduate studies, working on my master's degree in therapy. And I used to meditate on the couch in my mobile home. And when I first started, about 3 trailers down, I would hear somebody's bass going off from their stereo system. And so I'd be laying there trying to meditate, and all of a sudden I hear boom, 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 and I could feel my trailer shake. And so that became a point of tension for me, and I get frustrated. And of course, I was no longer relaxing my body, and you all know what I'm talking about. Okay, so that can be another point of tension. And fourth and finally, you can be simply not in the moment. And what does that look like? Basically, what you're doing is you're laying there, you're trying to meditate, and then all of a sudden, you're just thinking about something that happened 20 years ago, or maybe you're laying there thinking about, there are 15 other things I could be doing besides meditating right now, and this is such a chore, and why am I doing this? Okay, you're just simply not allowing yourself to be present and accounted for in that moment. So these are the 4 primary sources of tension that most of us experience when we're in the process of learning how to properly meditate. So how do we deal with that? So there's a form of meditation called mindfulness meditation. This is not a spiritual form of meditation or anything like that. It's about learning how to be mindful of these 4 points of attention, 4 points of tension, and learning how to properly address them. The approach that I would advise you to take into account is this. Every single time you become mindful of your tension in the form of these distractions, I want you to learn to catch yourself gently and graciously. Catch yourself and have this conversation with yourself in your head. First of all, identify or name the type of tension. Is it fear? Is it resentment? Is it you trying to control something you don't control? Or are you just simply not in the moment? Once you are able to name that tension, your conversation with yourself privately in your mind will go something like this. Let's say it's fear. You would say something like this. Okay, so that is something that I'm afraid of. Well, right now, my number 1 goal is to relax my body, not manage my fears. There is a time and place to do that, and this isn't it. So I'm going to gently let that go, and I'll come back to that later when I'm not meditating. And you just approach it in that way for each point of tension. Each time you catch it, you name it, and you release it. Now, I live in Canada, and I grew up in one of the prairie provinces, specifically Alberta, and I did a lot of fishing in the rivers and the creeks. And I know that in Alberta, they have a big catch and release program over there right now. Not a lot of fish right now in Alberta, I don't think. They got fished out for years. And so now they're very strict about what kind of fish you can keep and how big they're going to be. But typically when you catch a fish in Alberta, you got to catch it, you can enjoy it, admire it, and then gently put it back into the creek again. I'm asking you to practice doing the exact same thing with your thoughts. Now, this same author had this great quote. He said, "The greatest sign of tension is when you're in a hurry to relax." The greatest sign of tension is when you're in a hurry to relax. So don't hurry. Take your time. Pace yourself. Focus on relaxing your body and manage your tension. Do 20 minutes of that. That will be worth 4 solid hours of sleep and rest value. Do that twice a day. Once in the early afternoon between 12 and 2 o'clock, followed by a brief rest period of 30 to 40 minutes, and once in the evening right before bed during your 2 to 3 hour sleep wind down period. So anyways, that's meditation. I hope you find that helpful. And remember, you're supposed to relax your body and manage your tension. Make that your goal, and you'll see benefits in the long run. And by the way, it's not a chore. In the end, it could be something that you find very rewarding and relaxing.